you're fine.
Aren't they watching? If you want to have them on camera watching it, that's what I don't understand. It's where you can have them come on in and watch whenever they want. It's kind of like a camera. Oh, alright. Is that new? I think that's a new enhancement.
Here's another one for the Christmas holiday. This is also a tune that we recorded called Drogi Tatushu Toka. Lenny coffee soup. Dear Daddy, Coca. Especially for the Christmas holidays right there. Thank you. So we're going to do one that's called Zasha polka, Sophie's polka, for all the Sophies, especially for Sophie Pietruha here with us. For Sophie Pietruha, Sophie, if you can hear us over here, especially for Sophie, a long-time polka fan, and a dear, dear friend of our band for many years. For Sophie Pietruha and all the Sophies here, here's Rich on a vocal with one called Zasha polka.
Oh,
Zasha, for you, Sophie. One call, Zasha. Polka. Thank you.
It's a little switch. It's not that hard. I'm just saying.
Folks, we want to remind you once again that the food is available. Don't let it pass you by. It's still have plenty of food in the kitchen. Take a walk, check out the menu. You'll enjoy it. I'm absolutely positive that you will. The kitchen is still open, so take a walk on over. Treat yourself to a little snack. For any of you that may be heading out northeast tomorrow, I want to let you know that yours truly, Lenny Gomulka and Chicago Push are going to be over at the London Polish American Citizens Club, the PACC. That's at 355 East Street in Ludlow. Yes, tomorrow, Sunday, 2:30 until 6:30. We'll be there waiting for you, so drop in at any time. With the full kitchen, a full bar, lots of music. A wonderful club, the Ludlow PACC. Tomorrow, Sunday, we'll be there. And some Polish carolers that are going to be dropping in with us. So stop on by. For you waltzers, here's one called Serca Dwa, the 2 hearts. By the way, the 50-50 is alive and growing. The 50-50, you cannot leave if you have not played. The pot is, I understand the pot is over 350 bucks. Over 300 bucks right now. Over 300 right now, so get on over to the door. See Mike Kukowski. Get those tickets because you may be the winner. If you don't play, you can't win, right? It's over 300 bucks right now. He would like absolute vodka on the rocks, John. He's screaming out on the rocks. And he wants you to hurry. Yeah. I won't wait for you.
You don't react to that.
For you waltzers, here we go. 7-7. Serca 2. Two hearts won't circle. Oh, we have Paul Wallace here with us all the way from Stratton Way. Paul Wallace. We were with Paul last weekend. Paul stood up to a wedding in Western Mass. We had a lot of fun together. Also to once again pursue and Anthony, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, the Campazzolos here from Scotch Plains, right? And for Chris and Susan Lupinda from Linden, right? Linden? By the way, this past week, folks, you may remember a name in polka music. Do you remember Eddie Slumkowski? Eddie was on the radio along with Chet Kayer way back in the 70s and 80s. Well, Eddie called me up this past week and asked me to send his good tidings on to all of you. Eddie now resides in Carolina, South Carolina. Originally, he's from Union, New Jersey. He was a policeman and a polka radio disc jockey there. He did the radio show each and every Sunday from that area, from Elizabeth, Linden, Union, into Staten Island and beyond. And he's a wonderful guy, a good friend of mine. He stays in touch. Gonna be 91 in 2 weeks, Eddie Slumkowski. How about that? So, I send you good tidings from Eddie Slumkowski and his home in South Carolina. Good guy. The kitchen is open, by the way. The kitchen is open. Don't be shy. Walk on over. See what they have left. They have plenty left right there. Take them off to the kitchen, which is here to my left. Penny Kuzniar is here. Thank you, Penny, for being here. That's a long ride, no? Yeah. Thank you, Penny. Penny irons my shirts every now and then when I need it. I'll never forget that. Also for Jen Belanda, all the way from good old Chicago. The daughter of Stash Belanda, ladies and gentlemen. So raise your hand, Jen. Right there, all the way from Chicago, Illinois. Thank you, Jen, for being here with us. Here's Kevin on the vocal, one of his recordings. Here's what it's called. So Lubia. So Lubia. Okay, here we go. So Lubia, Kevin Adams on the vocal that time. Thank you very much. Thank you. Here's one of our medics, and this is a tune recorded called The Biscuits and Gravy. For the Ravens, we're going to send one up. Between Eddie, we're going to send one up. Also, all of our friends from Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area. Some of the Pennsylvania folks here, thank you for being here. Wishing you a very Merry Christmas. Hallelujah. God's blessings, especially to all of you, in the year 2024 coming up. For the dancers, here's a Rebecca whiskey, I should say one called Biscuits and Gravy. Okay, here we go. There you go, dancers. That was a tune that's called the Biscuits and Gravy, okay? You probably got that right.
Well, things have quieted down a little bit here. We're in Hackettstown, New Jersey. This is the PucoYashu's Ho 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 Down. Lenny Gomulka and the Push are providing the musical entertainment. DJ Bruce Zamorski's covering the breaks by the band with some additional recorded music.
Getting into the Christmas spirit a little bit, here's a polka that we wrote for the holiday, for the Christmas holiday. This is featured on our Gift of Music CD. One called Polish Princess.
So it's nice that Lenny's intertwining some of the standard polkas and obetics and waltzes with Christmas holiday favorites. And I believe there may be some kalenda later on in the evening. Stick around with us. We're here till 11 o'clock.
Princess. He was neat and unusual, and the story that I was told, he was raised like he always was. All the nuns could not believe, he's so cold, he brought smiles all the girls around me. And every Christmas he would say, send the baby to pray, let us stay. I remember that I loved her. Words used to be. Girl, you said, baby, are you? She said, yes, for nothing. She said, Mom, said, what's going on? That's calling me. She's so nice, she's giving it my heart. Polish Princess Polka. That's off our Christmas CD called The Gift of Music. We have time for one more too, and then we're going to turn things over to DJ Bruce. Don't forget the kitchen is open. Run on over, grab yourself a bite. You'll absolutely be glad that you did. One more song coming up. DJ Bruce coming up next. For my friend Jen Belanda, here's one called Never Gonna Say Goodbye. Over. Especially for my friend Jennifer Belanda, here's one called Never Gonna Say Goodbye. Polka. Merry Christmas, everybody.
It's right, ladies and gentlemen, Lenny Gomulka at Chicago Push. Fantastic folk music right here.
We'll be back
at
later.
PucoYashu's.